Hello, I'm Rob Clark, and as you can see, I'm an animal lover. Whether it's a friendly cat, domesticated over thousands of years and first believed to have been owned and kept close as companions by the Egyptians, or the more modern day python pet, I love all animals. Big and small, I love them all. What I'd like to talk to you about today concerns animal ownership and the right to have certain animals and how we care for them, how we transport them, how we breed them, importation, and a variety of other things. And if you're an animal lover like me, please listen because this definitely should concern you. We are under attack, literally. There's a theory that it may be because of special interest groups. I'm not so sure about that, but after I've explained everything, maybe you can form your own opinion to decide for yourself how you feel. But most importantly, I just ask that you help. I ask that you take action. So, the background behind what's going on is that we all know a long time ago that there were some Burmese pythons found to be breeding and populating in southern Florida. It was well documented and proven that these pythons weren't released. They escaped a breeding facility that was destroyed during a tropical storm. So, just to make people aware, the theory was that these snakes were just released by pet owners that didn't want their snakes anymore. A lot of you don't know this, but snakes like this can sell for hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars. When they're unwanted, there's always somebody out there willing to give that snake a home. There's always value to that snake. That snake can be sold or that snake can be given to someone, but it's very rare and highly unusual that anybody would take a money valuable snake and just release it into the wild. That doesn't happen. But because of the panic, because of the python problem in southern Florida, Florida recently passed a law that says python ownership there is now illegal. I can understand that. I don't like it. I don't agree with it, but I can understand it. However, now Senator Marco Rubio wants to make python ownership, or at least the transportation and importation of certain species, including pythons, illegal. But if you're thinking you're not into snakes, please keep listening because this doesn't just affect snakes. This is very broad legislation that they're introducing. This bill was co-sponsored by Hawaiian Senator Schlatt's. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's a Democrat from Hawaii, and Marco Rubio is a Republican. This should scare everybody because this bill crosses the aisle. Being that it was written by a Republican, co-sponsored by a Democrat, it is very possible that Congress could vote in favor of this bill. However, there are some concerns that they probably are forgetting, and there is also some information they don't know, and there is some common sense logic that they're probably missing. So, to explain, let's go back to the dawn of man. If you believe in the Bible, it basically says that we inherited beast and that beast was here to help us carry burden, that beast was provided for food, and a lot of us enjoy eating cows and chickens and things of that nature. Um, so there's that, and we, you know that historically people have practically always rode horses, and then dog is man's best friend. The Egyptians had cats as companions. Maybe some of that was to fend off rodents. We don't know. But ultimately, mankind and animals have always been tight. We've always been hand in hand or hand in scale. But regardless, this has been an ongoing issue ever since the evolution of man or the creation of man, whatever your beliefs are. So, domestication of these animals, it didn't happen overnight. such as today's modern chicken is believed to have originated from Southeast Asia. And pigs were brought here from Asia, Russia, I believe. But there's a lot of animals here already that were imported that are basically livestock today, or they are common household pets. And this bill could affect a lot of that stuff, such as something as seemingly harmless as a hamster, a gerbil, a chinchilla, a ferret, a Quaker parrot, a parakeet, a variety of fish, a variety of amphibians. Yes, all of those animals and the right to own, transport, breed those types of animals is under attack. It's being threatened by Senator Marco Rubio, who he himself apparently is not an animal lover, at least not like me. Or maybe he would understand that snakes aren't evil, that snakes can practically be domesticated. And everything is underway to make sure that the captive breeding populations of certain animals such as this are manageable and somewhat friendly and colorful and appeal to a variety of people. It's basically a long drawn out process of what you might think of as being domestication. But the concern is that these pythons might get loose, that these pythons might run free. You have to consider the fact that horses were imported, and in North Carolina we have a wild population of horses, which are loved and adored. No one's ever complained that imported horses were running free in the wild. Also, throughout the country, there are a lot of feral pigs that run through the woods and fields and do a little bit of damage, but no one is pushing to make pigs illegal. Why not? I mean, it sounds like discrimination if you think about it, or maybe a form of prejudice. Florida has a very unique climate. I can somewhat understand the concerns in Florida. South Florida, is very tropical. Northern Florida gets cold enough to kill off pythons and boas every winter. The rest of the country does too. So the question I have is, why should it be illegal to transport pythons across state lines in states where they're not an environmental threat? I understand Florida doesn't want this little girl transported across their state line. They've already addressed that by passing a law against ownership of a python in Florida. So that problem should be solved, but it's not for them, and I don't know why. Perhaps it's mass hysteria caused by movies like Anaconda or Snakes on a Plane, where snakes are sensationalized and they are computer animated. Because I assure all of you that snakes do not act or move or look like that in real life. Don't believe the hype, don't believe the movies. Another common sense perspective on it is snakes like this already exist in large numbers in this state, in North Carolina, as well as in other states such as Massachusetts or California or Oklahoma. So, if snakes like this exist in North Carolina and Florida, my question is, how does it do any harm to transport snakes like this back and forth between states where they already exist? If North Carolina says it's perfectly legal to own this snake, if Virginia says it's perfectly legal to own this snake, should it be a federal offense to transport this snake across state lines? Does that make any sense to anybody? I think not. So, I guess my argument is maybe we should let Florida worry about Florida. Maybe we should let Hawaii worry about Hawaii. Do people across the country really want two states telling them how to live? If you're in a freezing environment such as Alaska, where you probably shouldn't own pythons anyway, do you really want Florida or Hawaii telling you that you can't bring a python into Alaska? It makes no sense. And you can apply the same concept to every other state in the country, whether you're in Georgia or Texas or Nevada, New Mexico, California, it shouldn't matter. People have a right to own animals. The government should not dictate and tell you which animals that you can or can't own. Now, I understand that within the animal community, there may be some debates about what animals we should or shouldn't have. But let me assure you, if you're going to have that debate, you need to include dogs and cats. The data, the facts, the information shows that dogs and cats are actually far more dangerous, not only to people, but to the environment. And I love dogs and cats. I adore them. But statistically, a lot of people end up in the hospital due to cat bites and dog bites every single year. It's very common. It almost never happens that a python puts anybody in the hospital, or a Quaker parrot, or a ferret, or a chinchilla. Have you ever heard of anybody being sent to the hospital because their imported fish attacked them? Why make it illegal? Yes, there are concerns for the environment, and I understand that, but we'll address that in just a moment. The basic thing is, if we're going to debate the animals that we should own, do we really want to include dogs and cats because they're well known for causing injury or carrying disease, such as rabies? I don't think we need to include any animals in that debate. North Carolina has some basic laws about animal ownership. If each state wants to pass its own laws and they promote responsibility, then I'm all for it. Such laws would simply say that the animals need to be taken care of. Animal welfare should always be the priority. The laws should also state that the animals need to be properly enclosed or kept, or the owner should prevent escape. I mean, that makes pretty good sense, right? I mean, that's common sense. Um, the other laws basically say that I am protect people from being injured. I cannot allow my animals to go out here and attack somebody. Even without criminal law, civil law would define that as negligence. So those are some pretty basic guidelines that I think if any state wants to adopt, they should adopt those guidelines. But let's keep the federal government out of it. Yes, it's thought that there might be some special interest groups behind this, and maybe it's just Florida. But if we're going to match special interest groups against each other or organizations, let's consider the farming industry. The farming industry is huge. They are probably the number one industry special interest group in America. If you attack pet ownership, you are attacking the farmers because every pet in America relies on being fed by its human owners. This snake, for example, has to eat mice and rats, but the mice and rats have to eat things that are produced in agriculture. So consider for a minute that I, as a python owner, purchase hundreds of dollars worth of feed for my rodents and chickens every single month. I'm just one person. You're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars and a year, and then you're talking about millions, maybe billions of dollars when you look at it on a national scale. If you look at industries and businesses such as Walmart that make revenue off of pet sales or pet merchandise, if you look at PetSmart or a variety of other companies, Petco for example, and you affect this type of hobby, you're going to affect their businesses. So if the special interest groups concerning the farmers and agriculture in this nation combine forces with the pet industry, I believe together we can beat this. So concerns about the environment, it's very unusual, very rare for animals such as this to escape and affect the environment. Yes, that can happen in southern Florida, but in most states, Most animals can't survive in the wild. If we're being totally honest, most of the captive bred, captive produced, or imported animals have genetic mutations such as this that make them highly visible to predators. If I were to release this snake in the wild today, first of all, that would be illegal. But second of all, it would be a matter of minutes before a hawk or an owl or some other creature would see this because it's not camouflaged, and they would attack it, they would kill it, they would eat it. This is what a lot of the pet industry animals look like. They are albinos, they are beautiful colors, beautiful patterns, they stand out, and this is the appeal to the public. But in the wild, most of those animals would never survive. They would never populate in the wild. So consider that. Ultimately, what can we do to address this issue? First of all, don't debate. Don't debate amongst yourselves. If you're an animal lover like me and you try to tell your neighbor down the road that they shouldn't own something as dangerous as a cobra, you're being hypocritical if you own pythons. Different people view people's pets differently. And in today's society, what is or what was taboo 20, 30, 40 years ago is widely accepted now. For example, look at the LGBT community and their movement. Look at the racial equality that we enjoy today. Look at how society views tattoos much differently. When I was a child, tattoos were taboo, and now it's very commonplace. Society is much, much more accepting. Why should that acceptance be any different when it's applied towards animal ownership? And we need to accept each other's animals. So if your neighbor Joe down the street has a cobra, as long as he's able to maintain that animal and keep it healthy and keep it happy, as long as he's able to keep it contained, and as long as he is not allowing himself to be injured or allowing that animal to injure anyone else, there is no reason to tell him that he can't own that animal. And if something bad were to happen, that would be Joe's responsibility. Punish Joe. Don't punish the entire animal community. Don't punish the entire industry. Don't punish the entire hobby. There's absolutely no reason why you would punish Steve if Joe made a mistake. It's a basic principle. We have a human right to animal ownership documented for thousands of years. It's not for the government to tell us what animals we should or shouldn't own. And if we debate that amongst ourselves, if we can't come to a common consensus amongst ourselves, then the government will debate it for us. The government will come to a common consensus for us. And that's exactly what we need to prevent by banding together. Just like you may see a group of people of different races and genders standing together in unity, the pet community needs to stand together. The bird owners, the fish owners, the dog owners, the cat owners, the snake owners, we all need to band together. We all need to stand up to the government, the people that we elected, and let them know how the people feel. Let the people's will be heard, and let it be heard in one voice, so that we're not all sending thousands and millions of different messages. The message should simply be, vote no to Senate Bill 626. Get rid of it. Get rid of the Lacey Act. Allow beautiful animals like this to be imported because no harm comes from it. This animal doesn't hurt anybody. This animal is not attacking me. This animal is not vicious. It is not dangerous. Things you can do to support this cause. I'm not looking for attention. I'm not asking for shares. but you can pass this information along, and if that means sharing the video, then that will be greatly appreciated. Other things you can do is to contact farmers and farmer associations and let them know what's going on and let them know how this is going to impact their businesses. You can also contact your senators and your representatives in Congress and ask them to vote no to Senate Bill 626. And last, you can contact Senator Marco Rubio himself and let him know that we don't need this bill. Let him know to leave our animal ownership rights alone. Let him know how you feel, but please do it respectfully. We don't need anybody threatening anyone. We don't need anybody to blemish our cause. We need to stick together. And last, if you'd like to make a donation, if you'd like to support this movement, then contact or donate to USARC. That's www.usarc.org. They are a leading voice, a leading representative. They are lobbyists that help the reptile community, and anything that's good for the reptile community will help the bird community. It will help the fish community. It will help anybody impacted by Senate Bill 626. We need to fight this. We need to stay strong, and we need to stay together. So if anybody else needs any advice or has any questions, feel free to contact me. Good luck and God bless.